Empower Black men to live extraordinary lives. Shatter the stereotypes. Power Black men, shatter the stereotypes. Power Black men to live extraordinary lives. Shatter the stereotypes. Shatter the stereotypes. Power Black men to live extraordinary lives.
Welcome to Shatter the Stereotypes, where the intention is to empower Black men to live extraordinary lives. This show is based on the simple idea that every Black man is capable of creating inner peace, dynamic health, great relationships, and financial abundance. Therefore, we provide insights and strategies to educate, motivate, and inspire Black men to reach their full potential and create the life of their dreams. So if you're ready for some high-octane motivation and inspiration that supports and empowers you to live the life you were born to live, get ready to shatter the stereotypes so you can build a life that lights you up and positively impacts the world. So now, let's shatter the stereotypes with your host, Coach Michael Taylor.
Hello and welcome to Shatter the Stereotypes, where my intention is to empower Black men to live extraordinary lives. You see, there's never been a shortage of Black male role models. There's only been a lack of exposure of those role models in mainstream media. So my intention is to showcase and highlight Black men who are doing remarkable things in the world. And my guest tonight is a guy who is doing just that. His name is Velton Showell, and he is the founder of Leadership Dynamics International and the author of Leadership Dynamics, The Principles of Leadership. So without further ado, let's welcome Mr. Velton to the show. Hello, Velton. How are you this evening, sir?
Michael, I'm honored to be your guest this evening, and I appreciate you and what you're doing in the world and the opportunities to share some wisdom or some information with your audience.
All right, so we're going to talk about your work and your book, but before we do, let's jump in with a few icebreaker questions. So first of all, tell us where you're from.
I was born and raised in Camden, New Jersey.
Okay, Camden, New Jersey. Now, tell us a little bit about your family, whatever you feel comfortable sharing.
Oh, wow. That in itself could be a show of its own. Well, my parents had two children, my brother and I.
Okay.
But my father came from a family where he has two sisters, and he lived with his grandparents, and they owned a moving and storage company in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. My mother's family was originally from Junction City, Georgia, and they migrated to Camden. She had three sisters and a brother. And so it's one of those things where we had a family where there were no in-laws. Everybody was just family.
There you go.
And I had some amazing role models as far as uncles and aunts, and they were very involved in the community. They were very involved in politics, and they worked very hard to make sure that the next generation had opportunities afforded to them that they didn't have. So that was something that was instilled in all of us. I mean, my mother told the story when she was 17 years old, she went to work as a high school graduate at Penn Mutual Life Insurance and worked there for 44 years as an actuarial. Now, in today's world, an actuarial goes to high school and then college and probably has a master's degree before they become an actuarial. Well, she had a high school diploma. She was an actuarial and worked in that area and supervised people for over 44 years. So those were just some of the essence of the mindset of the family that I grew up in.
Nice. Now, if you were trapped on an island for 30 days and you could only take one book with you, excluding the Bible, what book would you take with you on that island for 30 days?
Wow. It's interesting. I'm an avid reader. One of my mentors is an author. He's written 8 books, but the first book that he wrote was a second coming of a book that had been written by Napoleon Hill. Napoleon Hill wrote a book called Think and Grow Rich. And one of my mentors, Dr. Dennis Kimbrough, wrote a book, Think and Grow Rich, A Black Choice. And what it really does, and what I love about the book and why I would want to read it, and I have reread it multiple times, is it gives you the pieces of the puzzle or the keys to helping you do things differently than you may have done them before, understand new concepts, new ideas, and just a new roadmap.
Yeah.
To making a difference in your life. And one of the things, especially in our community, that we have to do for ourselves, as well as for the generation behind us, is to help sculpt that roadmap so that they are afforded better opportunities than the opportunities that we were afforded. You know, generational wealth is all about making sure that the next generation has a better foundation to start than the foundation that you have.
Yeah, and that one's definitely high on my list. As a matter of fact, I remember when it first came out, I was so excited because I read Think and Grow Rich when I was 13 years old. Mm-hmm. And I know for most of my life, I've had a lot of people accuse me of, let's just say, being a sellout because of some of the things I've done, some of the books that I would read. And when the brother wrote Think and Grow Rich, A Black Choice, I immediately resonated with, number one, the concept, because I love Think and Grow Rich so much, but how he applied it to the Black community, I thought was genius. I just absolutely love, and I love listening to him. I just love listening to him. So yeah, great role model and excellent book. So if you're watching this video, if you don't have a copy of that book, I'm gonna suggest you go ahead and get a copy. Think and Grow Rich, A Black Choice by Dennis Kimbrough. Kimbrough, excuse me. Kimbrough, Kimbrough. Kimbrough, get a copy.
You just hit on something, and I don't want to deter from where you're going with this, but I want people to especially in our community, to understand something. They always talk about maybe you're a sellout, maybe that because you gravitate on the other side. I was an athlete for many, many years. I'm not sure about you, but here's one of the things that we learned in athletics. If you are going to overcome an obstacle, I'm going to make it even deeper. If you're going to defeat an opponent, you need to understand how they think. You need to anticipate where they're going or what they're going to do. And the only way to do that is to examine and really investigate how they put things together. Understand it. How do you think that the people in Europe were able to construct the buildings and monuments that they did? They went to Egypt, which is in Northern Africa, and studied the Egyptians. They studied our people and took that knowledge back home to make home a better place for them. So we need to understand that and stop just saying, I don't want anything to do with understanding. You've got to understand before you can perfect.
Yeah, and that's exactly why I launched this movement. Number one, I've been writing and speaking about Black male issues since 1995. It's just something that I've been committed to. And my area of expertise is actually the changing roles of manhood and masculinity in society, which has very little to do with ethnicity. It's about masculinity. Mm-hmm. But I also know that there are times when we as a community have to become more open-minded. And that's one of the things I loved about Dennis's book, is about mindset. It's about attitude. It's about the internal workings of our mind,
Mhm.
which that's what holds the keys to our success. And so that's why I love having conversations like this with brothers who are, as I say, are doing remarkable things in the world and sometimes don't get the exposure that they need, because the key for us is exposure. We have to have exposure to like-minded people who are making a difference in the world, people who are blazing new trails. My friends gave me a nickname. They call me Michael Happy Ass Taylor because of my optimism. And I've always had this sense of optimism. It's just something that my mom instilled in me. And yet I know that I sometimes get some pushback from Black folk because of my optimism, because they say I'm denying the realities of the challenges facing Black men, which that's not what I'm doing. What I'm saying is there's always another way to look at things. And if
Michael, I have a greeting, and I don't know if you caught it. Whenever someone says to me, "How you doing, Velton?" I have one response, and the response is for everybody. Not as good as you, and I'm fantastic. Why? Because it's all about mindset.
Absolutely.
I want to make sure that when we enter the arena together, that you understand that I want the best for you. And I hope you want the best for me. And I'm not as good as you, and I'm fantastic means that you're doing spectacular things. I'm speaking it into existence on your behalf. Now, where you take it, that's up to you.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, if I gave you a magic wand, and with this magic wand, you could create anything your heart desires, what would Velton be doing 10 years from now?
10 years from now. That's a great question, because I just launched the Leadership Dynamics Academy. And the purpose of the academy is to create opportunities, first of all, for others, but also to leave a legacy of the things that I have learned in leadership for generations to come, and to position people to be able to teach some of the concepts and ideas that I've learned to other people on a mass scale. I can only do but so much as an individual, but if I can help you just to smooth out your climb and teach you some of the concepts and ideas, and then certification might be a bad word, but I want to make sure you're doing it with excellence. Certify you to now take this content and teach other people. Then I don't have to be there, but I know the message is being delivered the way that I want it delivered. And one of the biggest issues, we talk about leadership and why I'm committed to leadership. I worked 30 years in corporate America and watched people being promoted for 3 reasons primarily: their fiduciary understanding, their strategic planning, and their technological skills. And they put these guys and gals in these corner offices and gave them these big titles and these big raises. And they came out of that door and they had no people skills. And they systematically demotivated 90% of the people around them, where they could have gotten so much out of that team, because that team was really expecting and really excited about the new blood, and their balloon was deflated in a very short period of time. So my mission is to teach those people skills and to teach other people to teach those people skills. And this current generation is technologically sound, but they lack the people interactions. COVID-19 has made it worse. But even before that, I have 2 grown children. If I call my son on the phone, he may answer. If I send him a text, I get a response in 30 seconds. Okay? The personal interaction is an issue, and it's getting worse.
Yeah. So, and we're going to talk about that in your leadership book, but I want to ask you a couple of more questions.
Sure,
so, as a man who happens to be Black, are you optimistic or pessimistic about the future in general?
I'm optimistic in some respects, and I'm concerned in others. I'm optimistic because we are moving ahead in some circles from a leadership perspective, even though we're not moving quite as quickly as I'd like it to be, or even as quickly as it had at some points. It goes up and down, back and forth. So we're always going to be have an adverse situation in front of us. But my real issue right now is the number of African-American males that are currently either enrolled in secondary education or institutions of higher learning, or are in the entrepreneurial mindset outside of being a street pharmacist. And the issue that I'm having is it's not a matter of they don't want to, it's a matter of exposure. It's a matter of letting them see that there's another opportunity, or there are other opportunities out there for them. And I don't want to dominate the conversation, but I spoke to a group of African-American men not too long ago. And whenever I go back home to the inner city, I want to make sure that I talk to the African-American men. And I gave a speech, and I apologized. And I apologized because people like me are part of the problem of why our neighborhoods struggle. Because once we get that degree, once we get that, we make it, we leave. So the role models that we used to see coming out of the home in the morning, going to work in a uniform or a suit, are not there. So these young men and these young ladies don't see Velton, Showell, and Michael Taylor coming out of the house next door. They don't see the suit, the tie. They don't see that the wealth. They see something different. And what their aspirations are is either being better than what they see, or if they see, and I hate to use this because they're Pookie and Ray Ray, who are the street pharmacists with the bling bling and the big ride and all of the ladies or the guys hanging around, that's their aspiration. But you can't blame them exclusively for that, because they're not exposed to Think and Grow Rich Black Choice. They're not exposed to Leadership Dynamics International. They're not exposed to going to the fine restaurants, staying in the resorts and those types of things that many of us do. And so if you don't see it, if you're not exposed to it, how do you aspire to get it or have it?
Yep. And that's why I built this platform, to give exposure, to let brothers see, because I've had spine surgeons, neurosurgeons, astrophysicists, engineers on this particular show to showcase and highlight, again, I'm an optimist. That's the lens through which I see the world. And when I see all these brothers, and especially brothers like yourself that I get to talk to, it fills me with hope and inspiration, because I know what's possible with the right mindset. So
we have to be a blessing for each other.
I'm sorry?
People say to me, how did you do what you do? I've been blessed. I've truly been blessed. And I was blessed before I even came. My great-grandfather graduated from Delaware State College in 1911. I was never the first African-American in my family to go to college. So he created in me a mindset of opportunity. Because if he could do it in 1911,
yeah,
by 1977, when I entered college, what the heck makes me think I can't?
Yeah. Yeah. That's amazing. Now, last question. So I wrote a book titled The Cure for Onlyness. And the book addresses the challenge that we as Black men sometimes experience when we're in environments where we're the only person of color. And I know you've had that experience. So how do you navigate that?
Oof. Well, number one, it's fear is self-inflicted. And you've got a choice when you're in a situation like that. You can focus on fear, or you can focus on forward. But I use the F word. What do I mean by focus on forward? You know, you talk about being in that situation. When I started my career in the hotel business, I wanted to be in sales. And they told me at that point, there were 7 African Americans in sales in the entire company. I worked for a major hotel corporation. We had almost 150 hotels, 7 Blacks in sales in 150 hotels. The average sales department had 5 to 7 people, to maybe in the larger hotels up to 20. 7 Blacks. When I told them I wanted to be a sales manager, they said, "You're not salesman. We don't think you're sales material." I was forced to take a job that nobody wanted as a hotel night manager for 18 months. Now I had a choice to make because, again, I was basically ostracized, as you are when you're the only one, and put in a proverbial box. Now I could have said, you know what, these so-called blah, blah, blahs are doing this to me, and I can't believe they're doing this to me, and I don't deserve this, and I'm not going to put up with this, and I'm not going to stand with this. And I could have had a pity party and the poor me syndrome, and nobody would have cared except for me. Didn't take it well at first, but I adopted with the help of a couple of mentors. That 18 months taught me things that I wouldn't have otherwise learned because I went into it with the right mindset of I've got to be better. I've got to be strong. If I want to get to where I want to go, I have to outperform everybody who ever came before me. And that's what I set out to do. At the end of conclusion, I'm telling you this story for a reason. At the conclusion of the 18 months, the same guy who I sat across the desk with, who said, "We don't think you're sales material," looked me straight in the face and said, "We put you in that job because we thought it would make you quit." Think about that. How many times has that happened to you? Where they put you in a job where they know it's going to make you quit. He said, "But you've been the best hotel assistant manager that we've ever seen. What can we do for you?" My answer was simple. I looked at him and you at that point you can kind of gloat, but gloating's not great. I said, "I don't know why we're having this conversation. You know what I want. I want to be a salesman." And he said, "I can't put you in the department. I'm going to put you in there so you can get the training that you need so that one of the other hotels may pick you up." And this was one of the premier hotels. They were running almost 100% occupancy on an annual basis. I went into the sales department, and within 2 weeks, they fired the person who had the job that I wanted and promoted me into that job. If I had allowed them to do what they had set out to do by, woe is me, I can't believe these, and they were all Caucasians, are doing this to me. This ain't right. This isn't what it's supposed to be. They would have accomplished what they set out to accomplish.
Mm.
But because I was committed to do what I wanted to do, And we are survivors. We are the offspring of the slaves that would not die. So we already have what it takes to do the things that other people can't do. But we got to focus on what we want to do versus the circumstances that we've been placed in. You know, my great-grandfather said something to me, and I'll never forget it. He said, he said, Sonny boy, he said two things. God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth to listen twice as much as you speak. I wrote about that in the book. But the other thing he said to me about our community, he said, the best thing that happened to Black people was the worst thing that happened to Black people. I said, Pop, what are you talking about? He said, desegregation. We lost everything. We got access to things that we didn't have access to before, but we lost control of our community. Our pharmacists are gone. Our bookstores are gone. We don't control our libraries, our coffee shops, our small restaurants. Those types of things are few and far between. You go into our neighborhoods now, you see 3 things. You can buy all the hair in the world for every woman you ever could imagine in a store. And we don't even control the hair. You can go to the barbershop or the beauty salon. There's a liquor store almost on every corner, and there's a church on every corner, on every other corner. But the businesses that were turning over the dollars in our community are non-existent. We don't own them. The corner store, we don't even own the Gar Star corner store. There's other people who've come into our community who are now owning the corner store, selling us products at exorbitant prices and taking that money outside of our community somewhere else. So I'm saying all that to say that the focus has to be on progress and figuring out the solution moving forward versus spending our time focusing on the current situation and how we got there and why this has happened to us.
Yeah, it's all about moving forward. So with that being said, I now want to give you an opportunity to introduce Velton the professional and tell us about your company, your leadership company, and what you do.
Well, Leadership Dynamics International was developed, as I said earlier, to really focus on the people side of leadership. You don't lead a computer. You don't lead a machine of any kind. You don't lead a strategic plan. You lead a group of individuals who work together to achieve a common goal or a dream or an expectation. A dream without action is a puppet. So you need people who are going to take action to take you from where you are to where you want to be. So what we do is we actually sit down and figure out how to help leaders understand the people they've been entrusted to lead. I said I spent 30 years in corporate America, and 20 of those years I was a director of sales and marketing. And they sent me to multiple leadership training courses. And one of the main courses that they sent us to was how to understand and discover your leadership style. And I sat there one day and I said to myself, my leadership style may be important, but it's not really the end all to everything. What's more important in my leadership style is the learning style of the people that I've been entrusted to lead. Because if I'm leading based on this style and who I am, but they're processing information based on a different set of circumstances, it's like we're either here or we're here. So how do I teach people in leadership to tune in to the people that they've been entrusted to lead? You know, there's 3 primary learning styles. There's the visionary, the auditory, and the kinesthetic. And that's how people process information. None of them process information exclusively based on one of those styles, but a combination. There's really 7 total because the other 4 are, these are the primary 3, the other are minorities in the scope of things, but they are infused with the 3 primary styles so that people are able to process what's going on. So if I'm a leader and I want to relay a message, or I wanted to talk to my people about a strategy so that they can help me develop tactics and solutions to accomplish this strategy, how do I relay this information to them so that they are tuning in, not tuning out? So that's really one of the primary focuses of Leadership Dynamics International.
Now, with that being said, how would you define a leader?
How do I define a leader? A leader is a servant. A leader serves a purpose. And the purpose, number 1, is to develop future leaders, but to accomplish great things by coordinating and creating an environment where people are able to achieve things that they didn't even think they could themselves. One of the slogans that I use is leaders are environmentalists, charged with creating an environment of excellence and success. So you're creating an environment where people feel celebrated, not tolerated. And once people feel celebrated, they will do extra things for you and to achieve your objectives. I had the opportunity to talk to some 2nd grade kids, and this was amazing. I don't know about you, when you were in school and you had a substitute for the day, that, it was clown time. It was time to show out and show off. Well, I watched this 2nd grade class, and they had a substitute, and they were mannerly, they were organized, they did what they were supposed to do. They really didn't give this substitute a hard time. If she didn't know where something was, they showed her where it was. And I was out there and they said, oh, that's a substitute teacher. And I was perplexed. I was like, wow. So when they went to recess, I just sat down out in the schoolyard and talked to one of the young men who was in the class. And I said, hey, how you doing? He said, I'm fine. I said, you guys have a substitute today, huh? He said, yes. I said, well, you guys sure are mannerly and you guys sure are doing a great job. I said, aren't you guys, when I was in school, we had a substitute, we kind of showed out a little bit. He said, oh no. He said, we love our teacher. And she left specific instructions. And when she comes back, we want her to be proud of us.
Wow. 2nd grade?
2nd grade.
Wow.
It was like, huh? Yes, we want her to be proud of us in the way we acted while she was gone. And I said, oh my goodness, that's the key. This teacher had created an environment where these children were working harder in her absence than they did in her presence. And that clicked with me. I said, as a leader, this is true leadership. When you can create an environment where your team members work harder in your absence than they do in your presence, then you can sit back and watch the magic.
Yeah, that says volumes. Now, one of my favorite sayings in terms of leadership says, a true leader doesn't say, follow me. A true leader says, I'll go first. And that really speaks volumes to true leadership, kind of what you were kind of leaning on. Now, with that being said, from your perspective, are you working with just the leadership? Or are you working with the people below? Where do you come in with your company in terms of, let's say I got a company and we're struggling and we hire you to come in and coach or facilitate whatever you do. Where do you start? What do you do?
Well, the first thing I want to do is I want to talk to different people at different levels within the organization. Because, just because you have the title doesn't make you a leader.
Right.
There are unofficial leaders throughout every organization, from the janitorial areas all the way up to the C-suite. And the issue is that unless you have a consensus or a feeling of inclusion from the unofficial leaders, those designated with the responsibility to lead can never fully execute the plan or excellence. One of my favorite coaches was Phil Jackson. And Phil Jackson had a saying, he said, good teams become great when the players learn to trust each other enough to replace me with we. Now, when you're talking about creating an environment where people replace me with we, there are no levels. Just like a basketball team, everybody's talented differently. And in any organization, people are talented differently. If you take somebody out of the C-suite and you take them down to the maintenance area and ask them to fix something that they don't know anything about, they're going to fail miserably. Just like if you took somebody from that maintenance area and sat them behind the desk in that C-suite. But for the organization to perform at an excellent level, both of them have to feel secure and appreciated with what they're doing and what they're contributing. So one of the things that I want to understand is, how are we as an environment including everybody so that everybody feels, as I said earlier, appreciated, celebrated, not tolerated.
Yeah.
Because you can basically have people feeling like they're sitting on the outside. Mm-hmm. They'll do just enough that they don't get fired. And you're paying them just enough that they don't quit and show up every day. Yeah. But neither one of you are happy.
So let's jump into the heart of it. Do you have a copy of your book with you by any chance? Yeah. Put that up toward the camera so we can see it. There we go. Leadership Dynamics, the Principles of Leadership. So I just want to talk about a couple of chapters. And again, hopefully we'll give these folks some interest, because you've already kind of touched on some of the things I want to bring up. But one of the things I want to talk about is, you at the beginning, you say, share your vision, don't create their task list. Mm-hmm. And I think that's pretty powerful. Tell us what you mean by that.
Well, as a leader, you're a visionary. Many times we get hung up in the minutia. Steve Jobs says we hire brilliant people not to tell them what to do, but for them to tell us what to do. And if you hire the right people, you don't want to necessarily micromanage them, because you're limiting the growth, your growth and their growth, and the growth of the company, because you don't have all of the greatest ideas. You have the understanding and the concept of where you want to go, but they have the expertise in helping you get there. So create the vision. Let them paint the picture. Every artist, before they paint their masterpiece, has a vision. When Michelangelo painted the Sistine Chapel, do you really think he did that by himself? No. He had a vision of what he wanted it to look like. He had a vision, and he painted the picture for the people around him. But they actually started filling in the colors. They started filling in the concepts because he painted the picture. About 20 years ago, I opened a hotel on Miami Beach. There was a famous artist. His name was Romero Brito. Brito is like the Andy Warhol of artists, of the artist industry. And we had a restaurant called Brito. And he put all of his signature artwork on the walls in the restaurant. So I watched the concept. He went in, he drew it all out. He showed them what he wanted, where he wanted it. He went in and helped them draw it on the walls. And his staff of people he hand selected went in and actually painted all of the artwork. He didn't touch it. So as the leader, if you create the right vision and you support your people the right way, they will create the masterpiece that you dreamed of becoming a reality. But if you micromanage them, if you stand over them like this all day long, you're going to limit their effectiveness and the scope of the project. And it's going to take more time to get it accomplished because you're only one person.
Yeah,
you got to create the team.
Yeah, because the key, and in terms of leadership, this can be applied to your personal life as well as your business life, is that vision is so important because you have to have something that you're moving towards, and you want to enroll people in your vision so that they are just as enthusiastic and excited about bringing your vision to reality as you are.
Absolutely.
Because when you can get people to buy into your vision and you give them a stake in it, and that stake in it is the participation of fulfilling that vision. And if you as the leader lead with excitement and enthusiasm and passion, your people will follow. You see, I'm assuming you're a Steve Jobs fan. I'm a huge Steve Jobs fan.
Absolutely.
Love.
Steve was the best.
Yeah.
You know, Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak. And there's another gentleman. One of the things I write about in the book is one of the things that Steve's gotten credit for, but Steve actually didn't come up with. It was Here's to the Crazy Ones.
Oh, yeah.
You know, the misfits, the round pegs and square holes, those who think differently. Those are the people that you want on your team.
Absolutely.
Because they will push you. They will stretch you. They will make you more than you are today. And that's really what we need. But people need that environment or that opportunity so that they understand it's okay to question. It's okay to move beyond where we brought you. It's okay to try something new. If you can create the vision, they will tell you what needs to happen to accomplish that vision. There's another person who, Jim Collins, wrote a book, From Good to Great. And I talked about the people. But what Jim talks about is get the right people on the bus, get the wrong people off the bus. And if you build the team with the right people, you've hired the best of the best. Now let them do the rest.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm also a huge fan of Richard Branson.
Yes.
And he said something I think is so incredible. He says, I'm really not that smart. I just hire smart people.
You know what else Richard says that I love? Richard says, I have no external customers.
Yeah.
All of my customers are internal. Because if I take care of my people, they will take care of all of the people externally that they ever encounter. Richard's done that. Southwest Airlines has done something similar because their employees own a percentage of the company. Ritz-Carlton Hotels and Resorts has done that. Their mantra, and I talk about these in the book, their mantra is We are ladies and gentlemen serving ladies and gentlemen. Even the person who's washing dishes and cleaning the floors and cleaning the rooms, they revere them and regard themselves as a lady and a gentleman, serving ladies and gentlemen. It puts them on notice, but it also puts the customer on notice that everybody that you encounter in the walls of our building is a lady or a gentleman, and they are to be respected as such, because that's our expectation. So now people are starting to say, hey, I'm not just going to work. I'm going to the place where I am regarded as a person, and I'm respected as a lady or a gentleman. That speaks volumes, because now you're creating that energy. You're creating that personality of, I want to do more. I don't just want to come up, show up every day to get a paycheck. I want to invest my time and my energy because they're investing in me.
Yeah. Now, there are going to be people watching this, and they may be thinking to themselves, well, I don't really want to be a leader. And I don't think obviously everybody's not going to be a leader, but this guy may be thinking, I don't want to be a leader, but I want to be able to contribute. I want to be able to, be a part of something. What do you say to that guy about your book who may think, I just don't want to be a leader, but I do want to improve myself? So what's your message to that guy?
Everybody's a leader, even if the only person that you're leading is yourself.
Absolutely.
Because you have to make certain decisions for yourself from a leadership perspective. And how do you move yourself forward to achieve your goals and dreams if you are not taking a leadership role? You might not take a leadership role at work, but you might take a leadership role at home with your family. You might take a leadership role socially with your friends. You might have to take a leadership role as it relates to your parents as you get older, because your parents need care and you have to make decisions on their behalf from a leadership perspective. So you really need to have some kind of idea and some kind of understanding of what it means when I'm put in that situation. So when I wrote the book, yes, it primarily talks about experiences in corporate America, but I also put in there a lot of things that, and I tried to infuse things that were real life instances, real life stories, real life opportunities. One of my very, very good friends, Willie Jolly, allowed me to utilize his story in that book. And Willie was a nightclub singer who was replaced by a karaoke machine. So he had to make a decision from a leadership standpoint. He had a family at home that he had to take care of. So how do you do it? You got to figure out, you got to think outside the box. You got to reinvent yourself. So a lot of times leadership is about reinventing yourself, doing something different. So the question becomes, do you really understand where you are and what it takes to get from where you are to where you want to go? And the only person that can lead you there is you.
Yeah. And so put another way, you may not see yourself as a leader, but you are always CEO of you.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Absolutely.
You are always CEO of you. So what are you going to do to be the best CEO of you possible? Yeah. Velton, I know that, like myself, you're an avid reader. As an author of 10 books myself, I love books. I'm passionate about books. I'm committed to what Tony Robbins said, which he says, the key to success is constant and never-ending improvement. So we're always wanting to get, or I'm always wanting to get better. So I'm just curious, what are some of the practices that you do to stay sharp? Obviously, you read books. What are some of the things that Velton does that keeps him sharp?
Well, you know, it's interesting. I've just put together a new lifestyle for myself. I'll be 63 this year, and I had to make some decisions. In April, I jumped on the scale and I weighed 291 pounds. And I said, there are no 70-year or 291-pound people that I know. So I had to make a lifestyle change. And since April, I've lost 53 pounds. So that's one of the things that I've done to kind of stay sharp. I've changed my eating habits. But I've also started getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning. And I get on the Peloton bike and I ride for 20 minutes to 30 minutes. Then I do some weight training, some lightweight training for tone. We have a prayer call, fraternity prayer call that starts at 6. It goes for 20-25 minutes, and I do that. And then, well, one of the things I didn't talk about when I'm doing the Peloton bike, I have basically committed to audiobooks. So I'm riding the Peloton bike, but I'm listening to books. When I drive down the road in my car, instead of listening to music, I'm listening to books. When I'm flying in an airplane, I make sure that I have my phone charged before I leave, but then I also have, the portable charger so that I can listen to books during my flight. So I'm always listening to books and reading, and I surround myself with positive people. You know, COVID-19 has kind of put a little hitch in my giddy up from that standpoint. But Dr. George Fraser said something that I repeat as many times as I can, and if you don't mind, I'm going to repeat it here. He says, if you hang around 5 blurred people, the one thing you can be assured of is you're going to be number 6. But I take it a step further. If you hang around 5 people who have no inspiration or no aspiration to do better, your inspiration and aspirations will be killed off very soon. So I try to surround myself with progressive people that are going places, that are trying to do things, that are making a difference in other people's lives and making a change in their own. So those are the things that are important to me. The other thing is spending time with your family and the people that you love. You know, we commit to doing these things, we commit to working, but why are we doing it? We never get a chance to enjoy it. And we never get a chance to celebrate it with the people that we care about. And the last thing, I didn't do it for many years because I was committed to my children and their activities. I play golf on the weekends as much as I can because I'm out in nature.
Nice. Nice. Now, with that being said, I want to give an opportunity to, number one, put your book back up again so we can see your book. And tell people how they can find out more about you and your work and maybe purchase your book if they're interested. How do they find you?
Absolutely. Well, you know, it's interesting, and I don't have a copy of it. My daughter was looking at it earlier, and I don't have a copy of it. The book actually has some accompanying things with it. There are 13 workbooks that actually go with the book. So it's basically a process because there are 52 principles in this book. You know, when you turn an ocean liner in the ocean, you don't flip it real fast. When you start to talk about changing a person's leadership, understanding, style, and mentality, excuse me, it's not something that's flipped right away. It takes time.
Yeah.
So I've created 13 workbooks that a person can actually go through the process with to change their leadership style or their leadership understanding. I don't like to say the word style. In addition to that, I have created a 90-day companion journal. The 90-day companion journal allows you to really think about yourself as a leader. And I challenge every leader to ask themselves 3 questions every day. It's the same 3 questions every day, but they're very important. The first question, what are 3 things that I'm going to do differently today? Because if you're going to change and evolve, you've got to do something different. You've got to push the envelope. You've got to stretch yourself to do something different. Be creative, be innovative, do something that you've never done before. At the end of the day, you got to recount what you've done. What are 3 things that I learned today? Because if you're not learning, you're dying. When you stop learning, you're no longer growing. So what are 3 things that you learned today? Doesn't mean you have to wait till the end of the day to write it down, but if there's something that you learned during the day, you want to make it count. What are 3 things that I learned today? And equally important, because we are leaders entrusted with creating other leaders, what are 3 things that I shared with someone else today? Because if you're truly leading and developing other people, you're sharing something with them. You're leaving a legacy. One of the things that I wrote about in this book, one of the segments is leaders focus on the leave behinds, not the takeaways.
Interesting.
You go to these workshops and they say, what were your takeaways from this? If I'm truly a leader, I'm not focused on what I'm taking away. I'm focused on how I'm leaving you. One of my favorite poets, Maya Angelou, said, people may forget what you say, people may forget what you do, but they will never forget how you make them feel. So when you walk away from a situation, how did you leave that person? Were they here or were they there? That's your choice. So those are some of the things that I utilize as I work with people to help them evolve. The book, primary, number 1, and you can buy the book via Amazon. You can go to Amazon and buy the book. It's called Leadership Dynamics, The Principles of Leadership. You can buy the 90-Day Companion Journal on Amazon, right there. The 13 workbooks, if you go to my website, leadershipdynamicsinternational.com. leadershipdynamicsinternational.com. You can buy the workbooks. You can buy all 3 of them on the website also. You can buy the book, the workbooks, and the companion journal. And here's a bonus. It's good for you, it's good for me. If you buy the book, the workbooks, and the journal from the website, or one of the 3, I'll actually personalize it for you. Send me your information and I'll personalize it and send it out to you myself.
And so that has to come from your website. So you can't go to Amazon to buy the book and get it signed. You have to buy it from the website, correct?
Right. The signed book has to be purchased from me. Yeah. You can buy the book via Amazon. And I don't discourage anybody from buying the book via Amazon because I'm pushing for the bestsellers list. But if you want it personalized, it has to come directly from me.
Got it. Well, time flies when you're having fun.
Yes, it does.
I so appreciate you, man. And again, leadership is one of those things that we have to pay attention to, and we have to be, especially as Black men.
Yes.
We have to take leadership roles, first and foremost with ourselves, know that we are the CEO of us. And, as Velton said, we've got to leave something behind. We've got to leave that legacy. So Velton is doing it through writing books and coaching and teaching, but you can do the same thing. You can leave a legacy, even if it's just being a good role model for somebody, even if it's just being a mentor for someone. But do something to, I don't want to say improve. See, I said it again, I said it earlier, I'm an optimist. And I see so many brothers out there doing so many remarkable things that we don't get a chance to see. Mm-hmm. And I love what 100 Black Men says. It says, they'll be what they see.
Yes, sir.
So we've got to get out there and let them see us. And that's why I created this platform, so that we can see us in all our magnificence. So, Velton, I just want to say thank you, bro, for what you're doing. Continued success with everything that you're doing. Good luck with your book, with your organization, and everything that you're doing. And there are no accidents in a perfect universe. We were brought together by divine appointment, and I'm still laughing because when I talked to you the first time, I didn't remember who you were.
Well, it's divine intervention, and any time you encounter someone, if you don't recognize it, then you're not really paying attention. And again, we met about a year. It's probably been about a year ago.
At least, yeah.
We hadn't talked in a long period of time, so the reacquaintance was great. And then we figured out that, hey, wait a minute, we know each other already. I applaud you for what you're doing. I am very excited for you and moving things forward. I want to stay more connected this time because there's some things that I think that we can help you with, and obviously you can help us with as far as reaching certain segments of our community. And we are, our brothers. I'm gonna tell y'all this, and I mean this in the best way. We got a lot of work to do. Our sisters are rolling. We got to step
Absolutely.
it up.
Absolutely.
We got to step it up. These sisters are rolling, and we got to step it up because it's a partnership.
Yes.
And our children need us, both of us, not one of us, but both of us. And we got to step up so that we can step out and we can enjoy the finer things in life.
There you go. Well, that's what it's all about. And that's what Shatter the Stereotypes is all about. It's about shattering the negative stereotypes about Black men in society. And the way that I do that is by bringing people like Velton on to let you guys see we're not just making progress, we're making waves. We're shifting the consciousness of the planet. So don't buy into mainstream media. Don't believe the hype. Black men are doing fine. Do we have challenges? Absolutely. But has there ever been a challenge put in front of us that we didn't overcome? No. So again, that's the optimist in me.
No,
so again,
but we have to help each other. You're absolutely right. We have to help each other.
Yes.
We got to come together and bond.
Yeah. Collaboration is it. Collaboration is it. We've got to come together to work together because there's enough for everybody. But we have to support each other and again empower each other. And that's what this platform is about. So again, thank you, my man, for sharing an hour with us. This has been another episode of Shatter the Stereotypes, and we've just done that today. Shatter the stereotypes and take on this leadership thing very seriously because you are the CEO of you and you are a leader. So go out there and be a leader that I know you're capable of being. We'll see you next episode. Take care.